guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Larry, and today we're taking a look at the third figure in Wave 10 of the Power Rangers Lightning Collection from Hasbro. We're looking at Cassie, the in-space Pink Ranger. And let's go ahead and put her in the booth and take a closer look.
And here we have Cassie in her packaging. And take a quick look at the lovely, beautiful artwork as usual. See her in her shell there, the sides, nice render on the back, and all the warnings and stuff on the back, and all the different languages. See, of course, it says in space right there in the corner. There's your bottom. And let's go ahead and get her out of the packaging and take a closer look at what's inside. And here we have Cassie out of the packaging. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of the details. One that kind of nitpicks I've had for the Pink Ranger figures we've gotten in the past is that the body is a different tone of pink than the rest of the figure for some odd reason. I don't understand why. And you can see, we'll take a closer look at some of the details. And as you see, I have a lot of messy yellow here around the neck, which I'm not liking. A little scrape on the silver on her face. It's like at least that's the only thing on the helmet that's a mess. But yeah, that neck is quite messy. Even got a little bit of splatter right there on the white. Right there on the back of her neck. The blocks on her chest are a little off, a little scrape on mine. And some of the blocks. Probably the messiest of all those in-space figures that I've gotten so far. Go ahead and take a quick look at some of the articulation. See, we have her head on a ball joint with a hinge, so you can look up and down. Pretty good range of motion on that. You have her arms, got these butterfly cuts. Now mine are, again, really tight. My left one does not want to move all that well. There we go. Got to work a little bit. There we go. Always forget about these butterfly hinges, and I need to stop hitting the camera. There you got the hinge peg here on the arm, so you can move them outward. My left one again is really tight. You can move them around and around. No biceps cut as usual for the female figures. A single jointed elbow, but you do have an elbow twist. No articulation at the glove. You do have them at the wrist, same as usual. And I'm always so worried because I always feel like they're always too far in. It's hard to bend them on the hinge on the wrist. I'm always afraid I'm going to snap it. Do have your ball peg swivel here at the waist. Now crunch at the waist. Again, mine are really tight. There we go, just loosen it up a little bit. The skirt is a pliable plastic. A couple slits at either side, but it still does hinder her. Not too bad, at least not on the left side. Right side, obviously, because of the holster. You do have thigh cuts. Your double jointed knees. Again, mine are always really tight on the knees. I've had very few figures that were loose. You do have a boot cut, which again, my boot cuts are really tight. Usually this is where my weakest articulation is on a lot of my figures, are the ankles. This one so far, the rocker seems pretty tight on both, or maybe a little bit looser on the left for the hinge. But the rockers are pretty good. Lots more solid than the Phantom Ranger was. Now we're going to take a quick look at some of her accessories, or all of her accessories, starting again with her hands. She has one pair of extra hands, but you have one karate chop pose hand and one fist. Again with those horizontal hinges like normal. And she has her two weapons. We'll go over her main holster weapon, which is her Astro Blaster. And it looks like it's molded in a semi-translucent gray plastic. Get that in frame here. but the paint on this is a lot better than the figure itself. A little bit more detail, I think. I have to compare it to the other figures. But it's nicely done in blue, a little bit of red and gold and silver. Little accents. Of course, that goes into her holster here, which is really kind of squished on this one compared to the others. So it's a bit more of a pain to get this in. Have to work it a little bit. There we go. And you got her power weapon, which is her Sonic Stinger. I think it's what it's called. I may have to go back and look that up because I really don't remember. But it's a nice little satellite gun. And it has a blast effect of its own. It's the only blast effect we get with this figure. We don't get one for the Astro Blaster. But we get this lovely effect. Like a little sonic wave. Oh, I'm dropping it. As you can see here. A nice sparkly translucent pink plastic. And that just pegs right into the center of that, which is a little difficult, so you kind of have to hold it in the middle, or you might accidentally snap one of these bars on the end, because it's very pliable plastic, but it's very thin there, and I'm afraid it might snap if played around with too much. So you got that. And of course, usually I go with this first, but we're going this last, which is her civilian head. And it's not an exact likeness to the actress who played Cassie, but it's pretty close. I don't remember, is that supposed to be there? Is that supposed to be a mole or a freckle? I don't remember she had that. But it's got some nice molded detail in the hair. Nice little braid back there. I'll go ahead and get her head on. There we go. I mean, it looks really nice. Looks pretty cool. Now here we got a comparison from our last release of this figure from Bandai's Legacy line right next to it. And as you can see, the Legacy line was a 7-inch scale figure opposed to the 6-inch Marvel Legends Black Series scale that they do at Hasbro. And of course, the Hasbro one is more accurate to the show opposed to the over-exaggerated superhero muscular big bosom stylings from Bandai America. And the only upside to Bandai America's is the amount of articulation that was put into this figure compared to the Hasbro one, because at least you do get bicep swivels there, but you only get the still only single jointed elbow, and you do get cuts at the wrist, or I should say gloves, and you still get the articulation here, but no interchangeable hands. Weapons usually had a bit, if it came with weapons, had a bit better painted detail, as this did. Of course, they are larger, so easier to paint. Main downside besides that is the sculpt. It's like just too over exaggerated. I mean, typical American action figures back in the day were always over exaggerated muscular ones, but the thing that Hasbro does really well is their commitment to, I guess, sorta realism, close to the show as you can get. But at least with the Legacy line, it was more consistent color between all the plastics, opposed to this, where the torso looks more of a really kind of light purple instead of a pink, which is kind of a bummer. But still, if I had to compare, Hasbro still wins just because of the more, I guess, close to the actual likeness of the actual character. Oh, and also Bandai loses because of lack of extra accessories. No human heads, or civilian heads, no power weapons. It's usually just the holster weapon, and that's it. And you're paying the same price as a Marvel Legends, just for what? A little bit more articulation compared to the other female figures. Come on, y'all could have done better than that. And here she is alongside the Core in Space team. And as you can see from the paint applications on the rest of them, they all suffer the same issue around the visor, mainly near the center, where it seems to be very difficult to get that to line up correctly. It's always just a little off. But other than that, there's always a little bit of different paint issues with each one of them. But she by far has the messiest I've seen out of any of them, which is really sad. And here's a closer look at her next to the only other female in space, Ashley. And as you can see, the only difference really between the two, paint is a bit better on Ashley. Tell by the shoulders have a lot more white on them. I don't know, I guess they just couldn't figure out how they really wanted that end to look on the female figures because the arms being so much thinner than the males, and why they decided not to do the same with Cassie, just cover the whole shoulder section with white opposed to just the stripe there. I have no idea why they would do that, but it does make it look a little inconsistent. Maybe when the re-releases with the Galaxy gliders, maybe they'll correct those issues, but only time will tell. All in all, I'm a little disappointed with how this figure ended up turning out in the end. It's got some of the messiest paint work on. I mean, the accessories are really nice though, but just that paint on her just being so sloppy around the neck. And I want to really like the figure. Like I said, hopefully the re-release or deluxe release with the Galaxy Glider, if they continue with that after Blue is released, only time will tell. Even though it would suck to have to rebuy the same figure again just for a vehicle, and they should just done it like that to begin with. But I guess hindsight is 2020. I will leave links in the description below, and as always, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy what I'm doing here, and I'll see y'all next time.